Hello, everyone. My name is Ramesh, and I'm the project director for the AIMS² program at California State University at Northridge. And along with Professor Nathan Durdella, who's a project assessment coordinator, we put together this brief presentation to describe to you how we moved from formative to summative evaluation with the AIMS² program at Cal State Northridge. So first and foremost, the AIMS² program is funded by the U.S. Department of Education under a Title III Part F HSI-STEM and Articulation 5-year grant. And the contents of this presentation do not necessarily represent the policy of the U.S. Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government. With that out of the way, I want to describe to you what our goals were in framing this particular project. Then I'll speak to you about the logic model that we developed as we continued along the path to build the program. Then we'll talk about the implementation of the program, particularly the mixed methods approach that we use to report performance on the various project measures. And finally, we'll explore the impact of the program by looking at processes with some suggestions for insight. So to give you a sense of history, the AIMS² program, which stands for Attract, Inspire, Mentor, and Support Students, was originally funded in 2011 with a grant from the U.S. Department of Education. At that time, it was a collaborative grant with the College of Canyons and Glendale Community College, and primarily focused on transfer students. So students transferring into any major in the College of Engineering and Computer Science in the college at CSUN, Cal State Northridge, and particularly looking at Latinx students as well as economically disadvantaged students. Now, as the grant progressed, this was a 5-year grant, when we got to 2016, in the 2016 competition, we expanded the scope of the grant. So we added a couple more community colleges, namely Moore Park Community College, Los Angeles Pierce College, and in particular, we expanded the scope of the program to include both freshmen as well as transfer students. So we'll talk about that in the next few slides. Within the Cal State University Northridge campus, a number of colleges are participating in various aspects of the project, including faculty and staff from College of Science and Mathematics, from the College of Education, and of course all of the departments within the College of Engineering and Computer Science. So one of the first things that I mentioned to you was that we started in 2011 focusing on transfer student success. We noticed that the graduation rates of transfer students, particularly students from underrepresented minorities, was showing a gap of almost 20% compared to better served peers in the college. So naturally, we started asking the questions as to why this was happening and how we could go about addressing these issues. That led to the first grant, where we built a cohort-based model. So Attract, Inspire, Mentor, and Support Students is really based on students coming into a cohort, working closely with faculty, working closely with one another, and enabling and empowering them to be successful in their programs. This model was very successful. We graduated well over 200 students from the initial program with high graduation rates, almost doubling the graduation rate for their peers from same communities in the college. But as we pivoted to 2016, we decided to expand not only the number of partners in our initial program, but also to expand the scope of the program itself to include freshman students. So now we were looking at students who are both being challenged to balance their workload as well as work outside of campus, preparation in terms of prerequisites, study skills, time management, etc., and just generally adapting to the campus environment. So these were the initial problems that we were looking at. Clearly, the resources included financial support, intellectual resources in the form of faculty and staff mentors, physical resources, including access to computing tools, equipment, project-based experiences, and so on. And then outside of the grant, we brought in different partners, industry in the case of engineering and computer science, to truly help these students. So the activities were wide and diverse, and through these activities, we were able to demonstrate success in terms of mentoring, in terms of transfer student success, in terms of student success with regards to research, with regards to academic success with their graduation rates and so forth. So overall, the logic model has short-term as well as long-term outcomes. The long-term outcomes, of course, are transfer completion and postgraduate success, whether they go on to take a job in industry or whether they continue in graduate school. In the short term, we were very focused in a formative way on how we could help these students adapt and learn by monitoring various outcomes in the short term. So attitudinal and behavioral changes, working with peer mentors to ensure that they receive the support that they needed. If they were a transfer student, allowing them to be socialized into the Cal State Northridge environment. And then enhancing their standard research skills by participating in mentored, peer mentored, as well as faculty mentored undergraduate research. And finally, career preparation skills, because our external advisory board is made up of a number of members who are in leadership positions in industry, who are able to come in and help these students understand what it takes to be successful in industry. So as you can see, this logic model, we called it bridging the gap, is truly multifold, and it focuses on both short-term as well as long-term outcomes to improve student success for Latinx as well as underserved students. So what are the goals of the program? There are 6 primary goals. The first goal is to enhance the academic achievement of Latinx as well as underserved students by engaging them in a variety of activities, hands-on activities, learning activities, cohort-based activities, and so on. Second objective is to enhance faculty and peer environments so that they are in a position to support underserved minorities in their programs and their classes. The third objective, which goes back to the original grant, is to ensure transfer success. So when students transfer to a 4-year institution, oftentimes one of the barriers is gaps in articulation agreements. So we wanted to not only address those gaps in articulation agreements, but do that in a very collaborative way so that faculty at the 4-year college are actually working hand in hand with faculty at the 2-year college to jointly develop the courses. In other words, when the students show up at the university to undertake their junior and senior years, they're well prepared to be in the upper division. It's a very, very collaborative effort. The fourth objective is career success. One of the goals of the students in the College of Engineering and Computer Science, they're all graduating from accredited programs, is to be prepared for professional practice. So a major goal of the AIMS² program is to really prepare them, whether it's resume writing, mock interviews, connecting them with employers, getting them internships, externships, etc., getting them the hands-on experience so that they're actually prepared for their careers as graduates. The fifth objective is undergraduate research. And this we found to be a very high impact practice. As a matter of fact, a good way to measure the success of this program is it has now been institutionalized across the university. CSUN now has something called a CSymposium, where all majors and all disciplines participate and present their research. The model emanated from the work that we did in AIMS². And of course, the ultimate goal is graduation, retention and graduation of our students. And none of this, ladies and gentlemen, would be possible without the collaboration that exists between the faculty, between the staff, across multiple partner institutions to serve students to enable success. So now that you've learned about the goals of this program, you should know that the program has been recognized with a number of national as well as international awards, including the White House Initiative for Educational Excellence for Hispanics, and more recently as the 2019 Example of Excellencia as the Baccalaureate Degree of the Year, Bachelor Degree Program of the Year, excuse me, by Excellencia in Education. So, using the logic model to guide our early program development meant that we focused on 6 program objectives. And I've already talked to you about them: transfer success, academic achievement, faculty and peer interaction, career preparation, research skills development, baccalaureate degree completion. Now, if you dig a little bit deeper into this, underneath each of these program development metrics that we're looking at, we have both performance measures and outcomes measures. So for example, if you look at transfer success, performance measure 1A is the percentage of project participants who successfully completed gateway courses. So across our partner institutions, across CSUN, in the College of Engineering and Computer Science, we look at the student performance in typical gateway courses that allow them to advance to upper division coursework. This then is a measure of transfer success. In the same way, we look at academic achievement, which is based on the number of project participants and the improvement in their performance as they demonstrate as they go through the program. Then we look at faculty and peer interaction. And here we're looking at both the change in enrollment of Hispanic and low-income students, as well as the number of students who are retained. So we look at year-over-year retention, as well as graduation statistics. Career preparation is measured through measures of self-perception, attitudes and skills, knowledge, skills, and behaviors related to career. And then finally, research skills development. I'll mention the instruments that we use. We look at self-perceptions, attitudes, and skills, because ultimately we're able to show a good correlation between success in these metrics and career success and graduate school success. And the final outcome, long-term outcome, if you will, is baccalaureate degree completion. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons why our program was selected by Excellencia last year is a tremendous degree completion rates. But number 6 would not be possible without 1 through 5, right? As you'll find out in the next few minutes. So we have a matrix of these objectives, the performance measures, and we use both institutional as well as data from our direct measurement and our partners. This is all available on our website, as you saw on the previous slide, ecs.csum.edu/AIMS². So if you look at this on the assessment matrix, you'll find that for each of the objectives, we've identified the parties that are responsible. For example, the percent of Hispanic and low-income students who participated in grant-supported services or programs who successfully completed gateway courses. Now, this is measured in all of our institutions, in other words, CSUN as well as of our partner institutions. The data we use is both institutional as well as program data. And then some data is very specific to CSUN. For example, baccalaureate degree completion, and then the percent of students who persist at CSUN. These are all very specific to CSUN. So all of these are done in a very, very tangible, measurable way. And let me just say something about assessment. There is a saying that you measure what you value, and you value what you measure. And this is something that we've really learned and we really practice in the AIMS² program. So what is it about the AIMS² program that makes it so successful? In one word, AIMS² is all about community. So when you talk to our students, they'll tell you that they belong to a small group of students in a cohort. They work very closely with a faculty mentor. They have peer mentors to support them. Peer mentors are not there for academic support. They're there to give them holistic and moral support, to get them motivated, to improve their study skills, to help them with time management, generally to navigate classes. We found this to be particularly helpful for freshmen. Student tutors, again, we've identified a variety of courses where students need help, and we've hired tutors to help them in all of these courses. Students are expected to meet weekly with their faculty mentors. Some of them, in fact, have bi-weekly meetings. And there's a series of documented journals that keep track of student performance and how they're being advised. One of the important requirements in the AIMS² program is maintaining minimum requirements for scholarship. We expect all students to complete a minimum of 24 units during the academic year. On the average, they take about 12 units a semester, but we give them the latitude to catch up during the summer, because some of them might be working and they take fewer than 12 units during the semester. As long as they complete 24 units during the academic year, which includes fall, spring, and summer, with a 2.0 or higher grade point average, and passing all their courses with a C or better. So these are the requirements from the perspective of the students. Some of the other things that happen with the program are the services that we provide. Through our external advisory board, we have a number of workshops and industry panels, many workshops on resume preparation, interviewing skills, research presentations. This is part of our undergraduate research symposium. So every year there's an annual symposium where the students make a presentation in a very conference-like format. So you find students presenting posters. It is all run very professionally, and the students actually get the experience of presenting in a professional setting. Okay. So now let's look at the implementation of the program from a reporting perspective. As many of you who are part of the HSI-STEM grant program are aware, we all submit an annual performance report, or an APR. And then periodically, the Department of Education requires submissions of reports with project status updates. As a matter of fact, up until last October, we were submitting monthly reports, focusing again on the objectives, in our case, 6 objectives, demonstrating what was being accomplished during that month and what the future plans were. And we did this diligently across all of our partner institutions. So as a PI, I would collect this information on a monthly basis and submit this to the Department of Education. What the APR framework does is it informs the decision-making from a formative standpoint so that we are able to improve the program. For example, the whole program around peer mentoring came as a result of our formative project assessment. And then from an outcomes perspective, we are looking at summative outcomes, namely graduation rates, retention rates, etc. It also gives us a chance to introspectively look at how the program components worked and what program components are the most effective. So the implementation in the mixed methods approach has really three foundations. The first foundation is based on social science. So this is a systematic, rigorous, and empirical investigation of really human social interaction. So if you look at the AIMS² grant, we have students, we have freshmen and transfer students, we have faculty, we have staff, we have multiple institutions, community colleges, different disciplines within the college, and the interaction is very different depending on where you are in the program and who you're speaking with. So we've developed instruments, we've developed protocols to assess this on a regular basis. The second one is applying and adapting these behavioral and social science research standards to improve educational practice. Because ultimately, we want instructors, faculty in the future to be able to use these techniques to serve students effectively. So our mixed methods design is a quasi-experimental and observational design protocol which uses both quantitative and qualitative data collection and analysis methods to inform the research project. So we've already talked about the APR, and the APR consists of baseline data as well as actual performance measure data. The data sources, there are two primary data sources. One is institutional data. Typically in a university, you have the Office of Institutional Research, which collects information that projects like ours can use. And then the second one is survey data. For example, in the undergraduate research component, we use a student self-assessment survey called URSA. For the engineering majors, we use a survey called EMS. So we not only have these qualitative survey data, we also have quantitative frequency data on project performance measures. And this can be reported both in terms of raw numbers, so counts, as well as percentages. And in addition to this, going back to the social sciences and behavioral sciences approach, we have a number of roundtable discussions and focus groups at our monthly team meetings to inform our annual APR reporting. For example, we get a group of students together and we do focused interviews, asking them about their experience on research or asking them about their experience in peer mentoring and tutoring. The team as a whole, the faculty and staff from the community colleges, from CSUN, meets on a monthly basis. We've been doing this from the inception of the grant. So if you go to the website, you'll find every single meeting archived and cataloged with the discussions available for you to review going back to 2011. So what do you do when things don't go as planned? So this is a good question to think about, as you're thinking about formative and summative evaluation. So in the first grant that we did, we only had transfer students, and transfer students were coming in with a level of maturity where they knew what they wanted and they were focused, and all we had to do was to provide them with the support, provide them with the resources, and they were able to be very successful. When we started the second grant in 2016, we decided very ambitiously to add freshmen to the program. Now, this came with its own set of challenges. While many of the freshmen were academically brilliant, we found that they were struggling to adapt to a new environment in college, to figure out how to be efficient in terms of time management, how to be efficient in terms of their study skills. So the need for peer mentoring became very acute. And while we'd always talked about peer mentoring and had a few anecdotal type of experiences, we've really engaged in peer mentoring as a solid practice, matching mentees with mentors, having a structured way to document those conversations, having a structured way for interventions with the help of the peer mentors. The monitoring of project participants is another critical aspect of our program. So every month when we meet, we literally go through every single group with each faculty member, finding out where the students are in terms of their academic career and personal development. So faculty can speak very candidly in this environment and tell us about challenges that the students are facing. And we don't wait till the end of the semester to solve these. We immediately have a team in place of staff as well as peer mentors to address the challenges that they have. Now, the reason we were able to do this is that our early analytical work allowed us to switch gears in the evaluation. So not only did we have the data, we were able to run statistical analyses to decide which data sources to use for further analysis as we pivoted towards summative evaluation. This also meant in some cases that we needed to move away from survey data to institutional data, particularly if the survey responses were low in number and we were not able to draw meaningful conclusions from the survey responses. So as we transition to summative evaluation, the key point that Nathan and I would probably share with you is that it's very important for you to plan ahead and work with all of your project stakeholders, because you not only need to reframe the metrics, but you also need to understand how this has shaped the experience of your students. And it's very important to be looking at the long term. And this means not just looking at year over year or semester over semester, but longitudinal patterns and trends in outcomes from baseline to the end of the program. Another aspect that I would like to share with you is that while we have the APR formatted fields that ask for specific data in specific formats, we have found that adding graphics really enables the faculty, enables all the stakeholders to visualize what is happening in a very practical, actionable way. And then finally, use this to do something new, because as you transition to summative evaluation and you're looking towards the end of the grant, you can really design and execute a study that tells you what the impact of the program is. For example, one of our goals is to not only create a change across campus, but to create system-wide change, and on a broader level, to create change for Latinx and underserved students around the country. Plan ahead. Can't tell you this enough. So from the start, I think it's very important that you will anticipate what you'll want to know at the end of the program, and then start building your summative evaluation into a formative design. To use the civil engineering analogy, the logic model is your foundation, and your foundation has to be strong. And then you have to build the structure with scaffolding in order to build up to a very successful summative evaluation. And you can certainly use the program performance measures and objectives to guide what you'll want to know, so that when you look back at the end of the study. And then every year and every term of the project, you need to have timelines to design and implement each phase of this evaluation work. That's the only way it's going to get done. So let's look at how we do some of this. So in our long-term scenario, when we look at the big picture, as we call it, Section 3 talks about institutional measures. Academic quality outcomes, for example, is a focus area. Student support services and outcomes is another area. So if you look at academic quality outcomes, and the question we are trying to answer is, has the enrollment of minority students increased? And here we report on this year over year, as well as compared to the baseline. Similarly, on student support services outcomes, we look at continuation rates, both year over year, as well as over the life of the grant. So the switch here is from annualized reporting or term by term, or even year over year, to multi-year trends. So you start developing longitudinal trend lines. And then you need to have research stories that describe what these longitudinal patterns mean over time. This is a great graph that shows you how visuals can demonstrate the outcomes from the project. In this particular set of visuals, you're looking at research and the impact that research has on our students. So for example, this graph right here talks about the progression of our students in terms of wanting to do research. So you see year 1, year 2, and year 3, the number of students who wanted to do it has been about 71% year 1. Year 2, it changed, dropped to almost 50%. Wonder why? Because we had a number of freshmen who joined in the second year of the grant, probably double the number of transfer students. And they perhaps did not understand what research was all about. And then if you look at another graph right here, you have attributes like research confirmed my interest in the field of study. My resume has been enhanced by my research experience. Research prepared me for graduate school. Research prepared me for a job. Again, you can see year-over-year trends, and you can see how things are changing. And then finally, we look at how many hours per week did students spend talking with your recent faculty research mentor. Again, we look at year-over-year trends, and we're able to address this in a way that supports both our current students, as well as allow us to plan for future students coming into the program. So graphs, charts, tables, etc., are really very, very helpful in exploring these long-term trends. The last thing that I want to share with you is always be looking to do something new. So take a look at the data that you've already collected. Maybe you just want to look at graduation rates and retention rates, but perhaps there is something in the data that you didn't anticipate. For example, use the textual data from a qualitative survey or focus groups conducted during the formative evaluation so that you can in turn help future students become better learners. Again, you can return to the institutional or survey data to plan a new study because it opens up new avenues for exploration. You can design a study of program impact. This could be part of your competitive preference priority from the funding agency, or it may be of interest to your stakeholders. For example, we have an external advisory committee, which meets annually. There are industry leaders that look at this independently and tell us how well we are doing and areas that we need to improve. So this year, during our advisory committee meeting, one of our advisory committee members wanted to know the gender distribution. We had distribution and student performance for Latinx students, but she was more interested in the gender distribution of those students to see if any practices could be particularly implemented to help women in engineering. So these are the kind of insights that you can get by looking at the data with a new pair of eyes. So I want to close with a couple of examples that have really worked well for our program. Clearly from the remarks that are made so far, you understand that research and mentoring, we believe, are big keys to our success. If you look at the research program, on the right, you see this graph that shows you the growth in the number of projects, that's the bar in blue, and the growth in the number of students, which is the bar in orange. So we actually started this even before the new grant in 2016. And you can see in the first year, we only had about 10 students. And by the third year, it had almost doubled to 15 or 16, 17 students, 17 projects, excuse me. The number of students started out at about 30, and now it's almost 50. And these students, as you can see from the visuals, are expected to present a poster that is formatted according to professional conference guidelines. And we literally put them on stage, give them 5 minutes to make a research presentation, 3 minutes for Q&A that are moderated just like a professional conference. And the students do this. They prepare for this with their faculty mentors. At the bottom, you see the 2019 cohort of research students with the president, Dr. Diane Harrison, who loves to visit this program and support the students. How impactful and impressive this particular program is. What is even more important to me is that the students invite their families, their parents, their grandparents, in some cases their spouses, their siblings, their children, to come to this event because they're so proud to demonstrate what they've accomplished as a result of studying in the College of Engineering and Computer Science. And oftentimes, it's the first time that anybody in their family has known or seen the type of work that they've done. If you want to look at numbers, you can easily see right here that the number of faculty involved over the last 5 years is 57. The students have conducted almost 37,000 hours of paid research. Incidentally, the students are paid $15 an hour for their work. So we invest a significant amount of time and money in grooming these students and helping them be more successful. Here's another data point, and this was one of the reasons why AIMS² was selected as the 2019 example of Excellencia. Increased persistence in graduation. We had a 3-year transfer graduation rate of 70%, cohort persistence rate of 86%, increased completion of gateway courses, tripled the number of graduates in 5 years, 57 to 171. And the last one is really very enabling to me because it fostered a positive career outlook. In other words, 100% of our cohort students felt ready and prepared to be able to go out and take on a professional career. Really magnificent outcome, and very, very humbled and deeply proud of the accomplishments of the faculty and staff to enable this to happen. Now, a lot of things have changed in the last 6 months. On the 12th of March, We were all in our classrooms and our labs and our lectures. On the 19th of March, we pivoted to going completely virtual as a result of COVID-19. But although the times have changed, the AIMS² program still remains very strong. We continue to meet via Zoom. This is our monthly faculty meeting. We continue to meet with our research team, again, on a monthly basis. This summer, we actually ran a virtual online research program with 10 students and 4 projects, very successful, and we plan to expand on that in the coming fall semester to include community college students as well. So none of the program services have dropped off. We still continue to do peer mentoring, continue to do tutoring. We, in fact, recruited cohort 5, our last and final cohort. We have programs in place to help the faculty guide these students, and we hope that we will continue along this path to make systemic change. So in closing, for further insight, here are some questions to guide formative and summative evaluation. I think it's really important for you to be measuring what you value and value what you measure. That's a big message. So do interim and immediate formative evaluation. So this gives you an idea of what program components need immediate and intermediate term attention. And based on that, you're able to adapt your program to serve the students. Contextualize the information. So what have you learned from the project performance data, besides the fact that you're submitting the annual performance report? Look at the data deeply to see what the students are telling you, what the data is telling you, what is the discussion telling you, and use that to improve the program. And then use the early intervention evaluation as an alert to update approach. In other words, what do we know from the descriptive or inferential statistical analysis about both the impact of the program and the implementation, including evaluation design and methods? So I think this is a great program. It's a great opportunity for all of you to move from formative to summative, just doing the things that you're doing, but with laser focus on student success. So I want to thank you again for listening to this webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to visit our website, which is up on the screen, www.ecs.csum.edu/AIMS². My email address, s.ramesh@csum.edu. Again, on behalf of our project team, on behalf of our evaluator, Professor Nathan Durdella, and myself, I thank you very much for attending and hope you enjoyed this webinar. Look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.